bills are being developed. So I think what we're waiting to see is probably Monday or Tuesday there will be a proclamation.
What do you think, though? They say, Senator McKay said very clearly in his written statement last night that he's withholding judgment, that he won't be rushed to judgment, and that he's waiting, in his words, for uncertainties that are beyond their control. In other words, maybe court decisions. What if, you know, the Supreme Court tomorrow, the U.S. Supreme Court could make an announcement? Don't you think he's being wise and waiting things out? I think the wisest thing to do would be not to call this special session. It is an unprecedented action. Never in the history of the United States has a state legislature sought to be the final arbiter in a presidential election. We have our electors, and we have a legal process that's in place. And really what this Republican legislature is looking for is an insurance policy for George Bush. I think it's pretty clear to all of us around the Capitol that if it starts to look like Al Gore is going to get his recount and may win and that the court may certify him, you're going to see this Republican legislature move very fast to give George Bush that insurance policy. Jeb Bush, the governor of this state, has indicated that he would sign a bill if it was appropriately worded. He said he would sign a bill. A lot of people have said that that is very dangerous for him. You have been very vocal in criticizing the governor. He's tried to keep low-key about all of this, though. Don't you buy that he's tried to keep out of this? Well, I think he did the right thing in taking himself off the canvassing board. But after all, you know, he does love his brother. Look, I love my brother too. And I think, again, it would be naive not to believe that he's doing everything he can behind the scene to get this win for his brother. But it's one step over the line. It's way over the line to use the Florida legislature as a political arm of the Bush campaign. I think that's where he's got to pull back, and I hope that he will do that. You are by far in the minority, though, in both the House and the Senate here. Democrats are outnumbered. Right. So what happens if they call a special session? What happens? Well, we're in the minority in number, but I'll tell you what, we're going to be there with strong, reasoned voices, and hope that we can appeal to our colleagues across the aisle that this is not the right thing to do. Okay, Lois Frankel, the Democratic Minority Leader in the House in Florida, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate that. She saying that perhaps we will see some action by the legislature. Senate President John McKay has said he's not going to make that decision on Monday. He's waiting for a report that's due out from the joint committee that met earlier last week about the election. Once that report comes out, he says he will make his decision, and we could see some action later this week. Joey?
CNN's Kate Snow for us in Tallahassee, following up on that element of the still developing story. Stephen?
Joey, when this hearing went into recess, we were under the impression that we had just seen the last of the witnesses to be called by either campaign. But let's turn now to Brian Cabell, who has some news that there may be a change there, that we may have some added starters. Brian?
It looks like a couple of rebuttal witnesses. We just talked to one of the Republican operatives here who came downstairs and told us that the Democrats have apparently informed the judge they have 2 rebuttal witnesses, one of them David Leahy, the supervisor of elections in Miami-Dade, and also a statistician. We're not sure if it's the same fellow who testified earlier, but apparently there will be a couple of rebuttal witnesses before the closing arguments. So this may take just a little bit longer than the judge would like, but we should find that out within a matter of minutes. Stephen?
Are you getting any sense from the people you're talking to there, Brian, how the judge is holding up through all of this? Is he impatient? He seems to be awfully quiet behind the bench.
He seems to be putting up with it pretty well. You can tell by his responses that he's sitting back and questioning, but he's telling them to speed up whenever possible, but he doesn't seem overly impatient. He looks as though he's willing to just put up with this as long as it takes, and he's hoping to get a hold of the case by sometime later this evening, and again, when he'll make a decision, that we don't know.
And let's put this in perspective for the viewers who might just be dialing in. It seems that this is really the biggest action of all of the election protests and contests at this stage. Is that your sense of it?
It certainly does seem to be that. It seems the last best chance for the Gore campaign. If they can count those Miami-Dade votes and get anything like 500 or 600 votes out of a recount, then clearly that's their best chance. If they lose this case, even though they don't want to say it, it's going to be a devastating blow, it appears to be. Stephen?
Brian, thank you for those insights from outside the courthouse. Let's go back now inside, where it looks like we're taking a final few formal photographs, before the judge resumes hearing testimony from those rebuttal witnesses.
We have an opportunity for each of the parties to review their document list.
I'm told that ours has been reviewed and agreed to on the items that I'm going to be offering, and I am sure that plaintiffs has been reviewed, and we've made some sort of agreement on that as well. But in any event, I will now read in the exhibit numbers of those that we'll be offering. And does Your Honor want me to note for the record just a thumbnail description of what the exhibit is, or shall I just read the numbers?
Well, if you stipulated to them, if you have a list of the exhibits and everyone has the exhibits, then I would then just move your list and we'll put that in as a court exhibit.
With the court's
if you
permission,
have one that's not scratched up.
if we could supply that a little later. We have a list, but it's got arrows on it and cross-outs and handwritten things. So we need the evening to prepare a list that is presentable.
Well, would you take one that you have there where what it is you've agreed on, where you can initial it so we all know that that's what it is, and then you make a copy of it?
Sure.
Mr. Locke, do you want to participate in that?
Okay.
Your Honor, while they're busy signing, we have some objections that we'll hand up. Most of them, Your Honor, just go to weight and weight that you will give the exhibits. One of them,
you can argue the weight of them in your argument.
Precisely, that's what I'm saying, Judge. That's what so it doesn't
that
require
won't be an objection.
Right, and so I'll hand that up, Your Honor. And the first one having to do with the
Show them what it is you have.
official amendment certificate of state elections. They just put part of it. We have the rest of it. The part they put in is fine. It's just the part they didn't attach, and it's understandable. It's a box. So if I can hand this up, Your Honor, the objections.
No objection.
All right, without objection, is that going to be a court exhibit?
No, that's just the objection is written down, Your Honor, so we don't have to talk about it. As I said, the first one, we have the rest of it. The part you have in is fine. The rest of it just go to weight.
Well, then can ours be then subject to the agreements made with Mr. Beck and with y'all be admitted, subject to the weight being given by the court?
Absolutely. Yeah, no problem.
God bless you. That's wonderful.
All right. All right.
Great. And Your Honor, our trial exhibits as well, which are numbered, pre-numbered in those two boxes over here. The first one is the official returns, Your Honor, which you might want to just leave in the box. And so they're right here in front of the clerk.
I know.
We have a list.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just did
This is right there,
that.
sir.
Court exhibit. All right, then plaintiffs list we have, I assume, will be court exhibit 1. Bush et al. Will be number 2, and this will be number 3. Is that satisfactory? Court exhibits.
And Your Honor, I think you'll find on several of the lists there are transcripts of the canvassing board determinations, and sometimes they're partial transcripts. And what the parties have agreed is that we will get together this evening, hopefully, and we'll put together a complete set of the transcripts from all the meetings of the canvassing boards in issue, and we'll simply submit that jointly without separating them into the partial transcripts that the parties have designated, so that you'll have a complete
That'll be
set.
satisfactory. I recall there were the plaintiffs filed 4 or 5 or 6 transcripts, and then there had to be an additional filing because of another meeting that was not in the original pile of transcripts. All right.
I think that's right. So we'll get together a complete set.
All right.
Judge, this is significant and it's difficult. I've worked with your clerks and they've helped so much in trying to straighten this out. We moved into evidence the approximately 9,000 undervotes from Miami-Dade County that were up here. There appears to be a question in what box they appear in the transport stuff and what numbered boxes. All I want to make sure is that we've moved them into evidence. We'll have to find where they are, but they are here under your order, and we want to make sure they are in evidence irrespective of the trouble we might have figuring out which box they're in. Am I making sense with that?
Yeah. Well, you've attempted to list the boxes, but you don't know if that's all.
These are the transmittal forms that were given to us by the clerks, and what it says, number 80 on this particular one, they have this before. You know, it says undervotes from precincts 1 through 451. Then the next box says voted ballots from 501 to 940. I don't know where the rest of those undervotes are in the boxes because I can't see those boxes or get into those boxes. But I just care that they are now.
You have a receipt list, do you not?
As we step away for a moment from Dino Kitchen, a Gore campaign attorney there, offering documents into evidence, we're going to take a break. We think we can step away for just a moment without any super significant developments and rejoin in just a moment.
Do you have the...
Welcome back to our continuing coverage of the hearing underway now in Leon County Circuit Court, the courtroom of Judge N. Sanders Saul, as you see there, who's asking some questions of lawyers who we thought were